Amelia, what are you doing right now? What is that you have in your hand?
This is a honey locust pod. Okay, it's got seeds on one side. A lot of the seeds in honey locust pods are not viable, but let's see. Here's one. We're going to check it out, see if it's any good.
Okay.
All right, here it comes.
Do we have a viable seed?
All right, so this seed actually looks pretty good. It doesn't have any holes in it, and it's
That's good to
hard.
go.
Yeah, so that's a good one. We're going to put that in the good pile right over here. But yes, we're going to use these for growing honey locust trees, and Tony's going to tell you what we will be using the honey locust trees and seeds for.
We got a whole bunch of honey locust seed right here. We've been working on this about the past 2 days. And why would one want a bunch of honey locust seed? I mean, honey locusts are weed trees that pop your tires with their thorns. Why would anyone want to grow such a thing, for shit's sake? I'll tell you why, you little sweeties. I'm glad that you asked. Honey locust trees are pioneer species. That is, they're able to handle really crappy growing conditions after a big disturbance like a forest fire or a landslide, etc. Or like development from humans, deforestation, etc. Right? Those are anthropogenic setbacks, anthropogenic disturbances. So they can pioneer a new landscape, a freshly disturbed landscape. They're really resilient plants. They're tough. They can grow in poor soil. They can grow with very little water. They can handle boatloads of sunlight and not get droopy or wilty. So that's a cool thing just unto itself, that they're weedy, resilient plants. That's really important in an agroforestry system if you're dealing with poor soils, because you use these pioneer species to improve conditions for subsequent generations of other species to grow, like Camellia sinensis, for instance, which is a pretty delicate plant. Honey locust is a nitrogen fixer. It doesn't have nodules on the roots, but that doesn't mean that it's not fixing nitrogen. So there's non-nodulated nitrogen fixers. Honey locust is one of them. And it can take, so nitrogen is the number one gas in the atmosphere. Okay, it's the most common gas here on Earth. Okay, so some plants, honey locust being one of them, can take in that gas, that nitrogen gas, through their stoma, little holes in their leaves, their breathing holes, and they can bring it down to their roots and dump it in the rhizosphere. That's the sphere that's occupied by the roots, where there's little bacteria that have a symbiotic relationship with the honey locust tree, and that bacteria receives that nitrogen and uses it to build amino acids in its body. And then when those bacteria die, they dump a bunch of that nitrogen in the soil so that the honey locust tree itself can use that nitrogen, or organisms in the vicinity can use that. Very important process. Only some trees have this ability. Some plants have this ability, and you need those in your agroforestry system if you don't want to have to truck in, literally in trucks, truck in nitrogen, right? That comes from animal manures or from the Haber-Bosch process if it's industrially produced nitrogen. It's made from natural gas. It's not sustainable. Okay, what else do we got? Honey locust wood is extremely dense. It's one of the densest woods that you can grow in this part of the world, a continental climate, right? It's got a lot of BTU, so it's really good firewood. It makes good bows as well. Bows and arrows, bows, right? The foliage supposedly is palatable to some animals. We're going to do some experimentation with that. We don't know that for sure, but word on the streets is it makes good tree hay. And because it's a nitrogen fixer, it has a lot of protein in the tissues, okay? Last but not least, honey locust makes these big, tasty pods. Well, Amelia showed them to you a second ago. Here's a piece of one. They're sweet. They taste really good, actually. And if you're something like a rabbit, which I'm not, I'm a human being, but if I was a rabbit, I would be able to eat boatloads of these pods because I'm an herbivore and I evolved to eat things like honey locust pods. So the pods are used for supplementing animal feed. Cows love them, for instance, goats. More conventional livestock, in addition to rabbits, will also eat the pods. Very high in carbohydrates. So they can actually be used to supplant corn, for instance. So that's a pretty useful plant. Pioneer species, really dense wood, makes a bunch of carbohydrate-rich pods. The foliage can be used as tree hay, supposedly. Oh, another thing too, the plant only intercepts like, I don't know, 60, 70% of the sunlight that lands on its foliage because it has a very fine feathery foliage. So it lets quite a bit of sunlight through the canopy of the tree, which means that you can grow a really robust understory in the shade of the honey locust tree. So it doesn't block out too much light. Really useful agroforestry plant. So that's why we're growing a whole bunch of honey locust trees. They will be an overstory for our Camellia sinensis agroforestry system. Thank you very much.
All right, so these are our viable honey locust seeds that we pulled out of a trash bag full of honey locust pods. So we ended up getting about 250 seeds, so that's what we've got here in this jar.
This is great.
But yeah, you can see when a seed is viable, it's not going to have any holes in it. There's not going to be any pieces eaten away.
No frass from bugs.
And it's going to be very firm, and it should sink when you put it into the water.
This is great. We're going to grow a whole forest of honey locusts, and we'll make another video explaining how to propagate trees from these seeds.